Welcome. I'm Karen Ann McDonald. Thank you for joining me. I've got a really great friend and an esteemed colleague. Oh my gosh, she's got her credentials like pages and pages. Anyway, if you're not aware of who Dr. Richard Allen Miller is, you will be soon. Okay. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, we can always do another part down the road, but I want you to put them below in the comment section. And we also can have you direct them here because what I want you to do is really get aware of Dr. Miller's site because in here what we're looking at is that at richardallenmiller.com is the main site on how to get a hold of him. And from there, you're going to see a wealth of information that would probably, you spent 80 years accumulating this information. I couldn't hope to put a candle to what you've done here because there's so much, and it's like, which rabbit hole do you want to go down and talk about disclosure? This is the host with the most. Okay, so when you look here, I'm just going to direct you guys at the beginning, at the end here. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's site. Okay, you can go through his credentials. Like I said, it's very long. If you want to join him, he'll be at the Ascension event on the Upper Pacific West Coast, right? And that will be August 28th and 30th. If you want to get tickets there, he's going to be headlining there with Carrie Cassidy, Ishmael Perez, and people like Alex Collier. So a lot of people that have been part of the disclosure movement are going to be there. Dr. Miller's already kindly talked to us about his visions for having children and learning them land-based training and getting them into farms and getting them into gardens and teaching them these skills that are so necessary, because if we don't get them trained and retrained and bring back our ancestral ways of living, we may not be here in the way that we would hope to be. So one of the things here, and always up in here you can go, he's got a donation button. If you just want to be part of this, if you want to have a consultation, he's also available for interviews, or you just have a question. I also get out of him on some of the social media and stuff like that. But a lot of these projects that we'll be talking about today, what he's done with Oak Institute, and just going through here, I'm just going to quickly go through here. Here's the event that's going to be available. And then again, the new family farm, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. He's got 140 some manuscripts. You probably have at least half of that on this site as well. There are some freebies in here, but there's definitely, we would rather than go into Amazon is go directly to Dr. Miller and cut out the middleman, because he can help you directly. And, you know, if you need anything or want to get a bunch of books or a collection, there are so many books to go through. I don't even know where to start. So in here, we're going to start in the part 2. We talked a little bit about biofeedback. We're going to talk a little bit about your what's called diamond body, which I'm always really excited about here. And that diamond body was really, really huge, because one of the things that I'm always been interested in for most of my career is actually the biofield. And not only the biofield, but I don't think we're really bodies. I think we're just extensions of this entire biofield and cosmic sort of, you know, conglomeration here. We may not be here for a long time, but for a short time, we can have a lot of fun and give a kick at the cat here. Now, I know there's a lot of people trying to interfere with that. We talked a little bit about the AI and the AI data centers, but I thought you could elaborate just a little bit before we go into the biofeedback aspect about, you told me that you were called in by krill that may be an artificial life form that actually connected to you through telepathy, which was later how the military that still can't crack those codes after all those years of trying to, you know, communicate with you for that hour, is how they developed the voice to skull and getting into the different gigahertz and how they turn down the volume. Could you talk a little bit about that experience for us, please?
Sure. When I experienced krill, I couldn't understand how she could talk to me. She was away from me, maybe 40 feet, and I could hear her voice inside my head. I'm I'm on national radio right now. I'll call you back. Sorry about that. I Where was I? Oh, I
Krill.
couldn't understand how she could talk inside my head. And Alan Frey had just made a discovery about microwave band in the zero point 0.3 to 3 gigahertz. What that does is it heats up your temporal lobe and causes it to ring. And if you heterodyne audio around that, you can hear voices inside your head. Now, that's a good thing for outer space where you can't use the voice. You could communicate using synthetic telepathy. That's what it's called. However, if you turn the volume of the audio down so that you can't quite hear the sound part after, you sometimes will be led to believe that's your own thought. And that's a form of mind control, where they can put voices in your head that you think is your own thoughts. And that's where things get real messy, because everything is neutral and there's a application for good or bad or 200 shades of gray in the middle. And, preferences like these. And I know that I don't know, but synthetic telepathy is now used in different buildings where they're trying, like if you're taking in San Francisco airport, where they'll say, walking, keep walking, keep walking. Right. Well, now they don't do that. They do it inside your head.
Yeah. A lot of this is one of my friends that, over the last couple of years I got the honor to connect with was actually Sabrina Wallace, when she talks about this wide body area network and that how the biosensors are basically underneath the skin. Sabrina is a wealth of information, as you are too, about what they've really been doing here. So some people, may call it basically the targeted individual program, or Havana, or the Cuba syndrome. I got to meet with Nancy Hopkins. I've done several shows with her at Cosmic Reality and Shungite Reality, because she worked as well. She was part of the U.S. Cyber Army.
Yeah, everything has been, including Facebook. All your social networks are there to profile you. They have control of how to redirect your thoughts.
This is just, mind-blowing. A lot of people aren't aware. The 7G, right? The smart bus, smart nanotechnology, but 6G as well. How everything's been electrified. I know we're feeling shocks, and we're seeing the Earth actually discharge right now here in areas.
6 gigahertz is basically charging on the fly with T-Mobile, and your battery gets hot. At 7.3 gigahertz, your battery explodes as an 8-foot bomb. And if you have your cell phone turned off, it still has GPS on, which means they can use you to take someone else out as a weapon. And
absolutely.
Requiring now a cell phone for two-step verification, kinds of things, where the only thing I'm going to use will be my landline. But the other is a weapon. They can blow you up at any moment they want to.
I've seen it. I've actually had people try and contact me. So I'm just going to bring forth, there's a little bit more information if people are interested in this. I would suggest you look at the Synergy channels and what Sabrina Wallace has put out, because it's a little bit more in depth here, and we'll talk about some of the natural ways to heal, which is why Dr. Miller and myself are here as well today. So, when you talked a little bit about what we could do, I thought one of the most interesting movies outside of Thrive and stuff like that, I always like those sort of things, and Symantica and Down the Rabbit Hole, Loose Change, and you name it, Zeitgeist. I was into this, stuff like years ago, and the David Icke stuff. One of the things, as I was part of Project Ascension, and a lot of people aren't aware of that was probably the best kept secret I think we ever did. But Project Ascension was actually over a year. There was over 50 some videos with a couple hundred hours, literally, because some of these we actually talked to for probably I would say, some of them were like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, on here. So the Project Ascension that we did, when I got to meet with a lot of people, let's say different operations like, Black Ops and stuff like that, Army, Navy, you were part of assigned to the Navy intelligence, right? And in here that have these kind of like incredible clearances, I'm going, just wait, secret, above top secret, cosmic, ultra. Oh, there's more. We get to GS-16 clearances, right? And you had a very high clearance, did you not?
Well, I did. I don't. Yes.
Well, you did, right? At one point.
Clearance with 3 volt permits. That means I could walk into 3 volts without a need to know. That's extremely rare. That's what they would call above top secret, but that's not a real classification. What it is, it's called a vault permit, where you're a reader. And these are people that, yeah, that person. I'm getting a lot of robocalls to try to interrupt and stop whatever I'm doing, whether it's writing or talking to you. They didn't even leave a number.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the things in here, when I'm just going to go through a little bit here because people, if they're not aware of it, I was part of Project Ascension. People go, how do you know all this stuff? Because I said I sat there for 6, 8 years getting downloaded by all my friends that were vets in different units and stuff like that through the Gulf War, people like yourself. A lot of stuff, people are not aware of the whole totality of, they are literally, I'd say 1,000 years ahead of anything that people think in the public.
well,
Even,
yeah, usually I was either 40 to 20 years ahead in the technologies.
yeah,
When I
yeah,
did anesthesiology, that was back in 1971,
yeah.
72 under Jerry Pollack,
Yeah.
the structured water. I was working, he was my lead, and that's when they gave me tenure on the work I did just in anesthesiology as a physicist.
I always laughed because all the disclosure stuff that we did even back here is to, the DUMS and the basis and stuff like that. People that had been inside, all the genetics, like stuff like this really prepped me for what happened the last 6 years, right? We were well aware they were coming out with these injections and everything else,
Well,
10, 15 years ago. And what was really funny, you'll laugh, Rick, is that the only video that was ever taken down was my one on how to get healthy with baking soda and colonics and pH, alkalinity, and self-sustainability. The rest of it they didn't care about. As you can see, it's
pharmacy,
still here.
what they use is what they call in pharmacy is a targeted chemistry or standardized extract. That
Right.
means they take raw material and they break it down to a single chemistry. And that's a Nazi thing that started in the 30s with Germany.
Yeah.
And what we did with pharmaceutical mushrooms, we did what's called full spectrum because like the pharmaceutical mushrooms, not the psychedelic or gourmet, but the pharmaceutical mushrooms have polysaccharides. And when I ran that through a jet engine at Mach 3, like they do in manure, it knocked it down to 400 nanometer. Now, instead with having an abscess tooth, rather than having to take an antibiotic that as it comes up, murdering everything as it's coming up you put a single grain on the tooth, it
Mm-hmm.
would fall down through the cell wall like an asteroid through a solar system, go right
Right.
straight to ATP, and that oxygen with sugar, it's a polysaccharide, has like 100 oxygen molecules.
Right.
Abscess is cured within 4 hours. Why are they not using that now as a delivery system? And that's something I did 10 years ago. Page 2 on that. That's 10 years ago.
I'm going to get a little bit into, well, my field, which I like, and your diamond body, which of course you got a whole book on this, and we're going to go back. You talked actually about the more. So, of course, we use all these acronyms. A lot of people don't know. There's the more, the Vega, there's the genius, there's the
Oh, yeah.
Scandius indigo. All of those I've had here or played with over the years in the, different bio wells and all sorts of stuff. So I liked getting into radionics and radiesthesia because I could see and feel the energy, and a
Yeah,
lot of
well,
people don't have those gifts or they've been dumbed down or there's been chemicals that they've been taken.
yeah. Consciousness is a dream state. You
Yeah,
have other awarenesses like a dog where you're smelling people when you're in presence with them, and you've filtered that out as unimportant, where a dog has not. And using different altered states of
right,
hypnosis, you can go to these different places and do things and obtain information that you don't have. Someone like you that works with your intuition, that's what you're doing. Intuition means you're going into an altered state, different than consciousness. And
right.
people, there's one of the discoveries I made at Mission Control in 1971. I did Ed Mitchell in ESP studies.
Hmm.
And it turns out there's a specific altered state that's right there, not up here, not over there. It's right there. That if you go to that place with hypnosis, your ability in guessing, even if you're on good psychic, is 400 times where you are right now. And that's what people like you do that are channeling and whether you're tagging in to an altered state where you have access to more of the information that you've taken in that you
Right.
have consciously filtered out as not important. And a dog doesn't do that as much in certain areas like you do. And that's why animals are not as stupid as you think they are, any more than you're stupid compared to an Homo neanderthalis. And I'm concerned because I feel like we're being farmed, and when we get to a certain level of awareness, petri dish. What do you think a cow thinks about all of that being milked?
Well, like I said, they're sentient. This is a huge thing we've been able to, and they've shown it many times, whether I've been with PETA or Cuba Tooth and Disclosure, they've been able to show that the actual cows themselves are tearing. They have, again, feelings, sentient beings, they have souls like anyone else. So I'm totally on board with that. That was the one thing when they were slaughtering many years ago, the dolphins in the caves and stuff like that, and cutting up the dolphin meat and putting it in to the thing, giving it to children for lunch. And a lot of people aren't aware of this, but if you've ever watched the Cove, it's quite heart-rending. I want to play a little thing from Hawthorne Studios. You and I both had the ability and the excitement. It was only on for 72 hours this weekend, but I'm almost tempted to go get it and buy it, but I'm thinking there might be something coming. But let's take a look at what they have done here, and then I'll get your comment right after we take a look at this, shall we? So let's take a look. This is from The Illusion, and it's from Hawthorne Studios.
Broken pattern that's repeating itself, where you look over here, this is, like you said, mandalas. Can you show us a live one? I see. So it's spreading into this flower structure.
Right? Doesn't it seem more organic and natural?
Mm-hmm.
So this to me,
what you're saying is this is fragmented, broken pattern that's repeating it.
So this to me was really exciting because I've known this, I've seen this, I've worked with people, from previously Dr. Bill Nelson, who developed part of the skill with the Apollo 11, 12, and 13 projects, and 40 Russian scientists, by the way, of which some I've got to meet some of these Russian scientists over the years and stuff too. And it's very, very exciting because Ryan Williams came up and he built our first Vancouver Island biofeedback school. And I was out there for years. That's where I did my training initially and then covered all of Western Canada. But then Ryan went and developed he was one of the first people to do the voice activated on a handheld voice, either a tablet or doing it through, well, you could do it through a Mac, but also through doing it through a phone. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember the first time I got at it, because like you, when I've worked with more on different things and Dr. Richard Bartlett and Matrix Energetics and all their little toys, I was absolutely blown. I'd broken my ankle and this thing went right to fixing it. And then not only did it fix that, which was, a 10-year-old injury, when I had been nursing, I was one of those people involved in a bit of a biowarfare tech thing, which was serration. Now they're putting in all the geoengineering chemtrails right now, but serrational Marcinium came up, and I was one of the few nurses, probably a dozen nurses, between here and New York with the 2 outbreaks, and it was one of the first things that showed up as they had not cleared out of my system. So I had been exposed to that in my 20s nursing in isolation, and here this machine, if you can imagine, Rick picked it up, and I was like, I'm blown. I am absolutely blown, but more importantly, like a direct energy weapon, but like a form of ultrasound, what we could do was actually take, like what Royal Rife did in Tesla with his Nikola Tesla's information, is we could actually get and listen to the oscillation, the frequency or the vibration of that virus, bacteria, or that plant, and talk to plants. We could talk to viruses, but more importantly, we could neutralize them. And then I was like, we're going to reverse antidote just about everything. And, granted, you could be hit by it, and I'm a nurse. There was a time and a place for maybe surgery. But then when it comes to not only chronic, but even acute, how we triage, there's really no necessity to ever use pharmaceuticals. There really isn't. I can give everyone an alternative to every just about prescription that they're on to this day and see them even weaned off, a lot of people within less than 1 to 2 months. And it's very, very possible to upload your voice and put these type of things into these devices and the radionics, which I want you to explain a little bit about, because this is actually where I got excited. right? Is that we could put the voice in there, we could put medicines on there, we could listen to the plants, and I can actually give you the vibration and you can talk to the, it's like an elemental journey. We can do actually psychedelics through sound and light. And you can actually see the sacred geometry of frankincense or the sacred geometry of lion's mane
Yeah.
in there. And that's what I'm doing. I used to give people frankincense, or let's say they were deficient in copper these days, instead of using patches and stuff, put me with one, I'll have a heart attack. Most people don't realize all these things being shoved down their throat, like carbon C60s and different things in methylene blues have got lots of side effects. Even the paste that people put up their butts can be re-triggered within a year or two. And then people go back into that turbo, what they need, we're trying to avoid from those onychologists, right? And to avoid the things like MAID or avoid the different things that we're seeing with the soji with the children. So this is something I thought was really exciting. And one of the new things, I don't know if you've seen, there is something out here I've been using a lot with my people because the sound and the light is really important. And one of the things we've gotten into, it's called a neurosync. So this is something that works with my technology and it interfaces. You put it on and you will actually see that sacred geometry of that plant without having to do any psychedelics. And we can just create by the sound and the light now. So I wanted to see if you had seen any of that. So that's actually one of the things I'm looking at right now. It's really been important for my clients because they feel the tingling and the movement through the body of, that plant or that herb or that mineral if they're deficient.
Funny like I do. I know. The thing is with biofeedback, 1974, I moved the Menninger Foundation from Topeka to the UW and added video feedback. And at that time, I was also first faculty at Evergreen, and we wrote a movie, a 30-minute movie short that won Best Picture in Cannes as a short called Eat the Sun. It was about a new religion based on biofeedback. I can send you a copy of it. The second title of it, Then You Will Be Your Own Father. And it's about a religion with a Vidaru Telemahandi. That's, driving them around and all the crowds that are being excited about it. Biofeedback is where you discover how to find ways of measuring your autonomic function and being able to change it with your mind. And it's you get a feedback system. And what I have for the Children's University is I have the old Autogen equipment. And what made it better than the current stuff, even though the current stuff uses rosettes of electrodes, mine was silver chloride, just basic electrodes. Right. What it did is it offered a diversity of feedback options so that you could break a learning curve. You get to a certain level. Right. I got so good working with my equipment that I got down to a delta state, and you could ask me questions and I could twitch a muscle for yes or no. Yeah. Now that's the possibilities available for man, because if I could do that, you can do that. And the different dream states, like lucid dreaming on down to consciousness, down into delta state, these are possibilities. Now, the diamond body is basically about the geometry, the sacred geometry that I discovered, that when you generate that in your mind's eye, you can create any high or altered state. And the Power Tools book that I wrote were the 8 altered states I gave to the SEAL program that turned into Superman. Imagine what man could become if he had access to 200 altered states. The Power Tools goes into an ontology of the different mystical states. And I want to make a distinction here. This is really important. I worked with Andrea Puharich, and he was one of my teachers. And Targ and Puthoff, that took over SRI and are what they're doing now, talk about remote viewing. And remote viewing and astral projection are the same thing, except that one is inside the circle and one is outside the circle. That's in circle of protection, where you draw a circle around yourself. Everything inside that circle is me, and everything outside the circle is not me. And that's how you tell the difference between having an astral cord and remote viewing like they're promoting now. And the thing that bothers me most is that in that ontology, that book, I taught power tools. Basically, a shaman, when he places his consciousness in the eye of an eagle and sees what the eagle sees, something's looking back at him. And that's outside the circle and extremely dangerous. It'll change your soul if you're not careful. Now, an astral cord is the way you know that you're inside the circle because there's a temporal connection between you. Okay. Now, remote viewing and astral projection are not the same thing as a wormhole. A wormhole is a hole. That's stuff I discovered a long time ago. A wormhole is like a white hole and a black hole. It's easier for me when I visualize this geometry. It's easier for me to go to Alpha Centauri than it is my closet next door. White hole, black hole. No, that's a fact. And it took a lot of training to be able to go to Mars, which is closer. That's what I'm trying to suggest. And the Power Tools book, I will give you, wormholes. I will give you some pictures that you can use to demonstrate the distinction between. I have gifts to show you what a wormhole is over what is a Stargate. Stargate is a illusionary concept in the series Stargate. It isn't real. What's real is the wormhole. And NASA has just discovered that same geometry in the North Pole of Saturn, which is in the back part of my book. And video feedback has been used to take gifted children and move them to a whole nother level using video feedback. When you see something, we're more visually oriented than we are with odoriferous molecules or, sensing, like you feel something. My gift when I was born was that I am basically a 4-year-old that never became 7. And I'm in my 80s. And I'm more circular. I don't go right directly in answering your question. I kind of circle around it. And that's like a child. I'm really bright, but intelligence is not IQ. That's what I have. I have IQ, but IQ is adaptability. And that's how I've survived this thing rather than being idiot savant. EQ is what I have discovered to be. That's what Krill had. And 20 minutes of dialogue with her. It was like a lifetime of words. I'm sorry. It's emotional. It's just that single moment was very cathartic for me because I thought she was my future programming me. I mean, I don't know. Something like that is, that kind of an experience is like very heavy duty. And I only did the one because my tour was mostly working under Schleicher as paranormal studies.
Right.
In any case, what are we looking at? Oh, emotional intelligence, EQ.
Yeah, a lot of people have never heard of EQ. When I used to use that once in a while, right? Like semantics, or when I'm doing psychological or emotional or trauma, counseling for people that, again, are supposedly, as they say, again, some people don't like these things, but that's what most people know it as targeted individual or targeted justice programs.
See something over here on my left, you had a picture there comparing EQ and IQ. What I'm going to say IQ is adaptability, how quickly I'm able to adjust to the environment. That's why I'm into survivalism. There's a part of me that, makes that a primary. I want to keep going. Whereas a lot of my friends are older now. They're just, I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. They put their tour in. I'm going to say something really important now. Nobody dies of old age.
I don't think anyone really dies. We're just on a different frequency.
Way. Yeah, like old soldiers. I'm telling you that
I'm by Valhalla. Nelson.
They would find something wrong with me and I wouldn't be released until I was dead. That's what I think about Western medicine today.
So in here, just being in the area right now, we have what's called, I love it, they call it wildfires, right? I've seen some of this stuff come down. What are your thoughts on the state of what everything is. Like we've talked about pole shift in part one and stuff like that, and possibility of being prepared, which I think is just like whether we are a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or whatever. It's just called common sense these days. We should always have a little bit of food and water always prepared in here. But what are your thoughts right now? Like I will tell you, there's over 800 fires right now in Canada. There's 135 just in BC alone right now on some of these maps. Hmm?
One of the chapters in my non-local mind book chapter is synchronicity, where nothing happens by chance. It's not about coincidence. There's something else going on. And the bottom line is, because it's emotions, not intellect or my physics, that put psyche into matter in force phase. That's why you have all the kinky secrets in occult societies. It's because in sex magic, the basic theorem is the thought that occurs at the moment of climax happens. That's why a man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. That's why all your saints in history have stressed the importance of meditation, training the mind so that you don't shoot your own foot. That's an archetype thing, where you, by thinking about it and worrying about it, you create it. And it takes discipline to be and do what I'm trying to do. It's very difficult.
It's really interesting because some of the thoughts that a lot of people are, doing, I know Sabrina Wallace is one of many, but getting people into meditation, using oils, using crystals, getting to focus what you need to focus on. One of the things that she likes to do is use a couple mnemonics or mandalas, but using something what they call piloerection, so that you're getting every skin, every cell starting to erect. It's not a penile erection, it's a skin or what we call frisson, right? Which is people what they call goosebumps or, truth bumps. What are your thoughts on doing meditation or using these type of things as a type of protective shielding measure?
You can see the hair on that guy's skin there.
Yeah.
You know what that means? That's the way your body tells consciousness you're generating stem cells. How young do you want to be? Visualizing in your mind's eye, like goosebumps like on my hand right now. I can do that with my mind's eye, and that keeps me younger looking. Do I look 82?
Do I look 62?
I can't do Monty Python anymore. Come back, I can still bite. Goosebumps are your body tells consciousness it's generating stem cells. If you can do that with your mind's eye, you're in a place now where you can change your aging process and youth. You can do the same thing with your mind.
No, one of the interesting things too is we talked about the whole idea of synergy, right? And actually, you were one of the ones that coined psionics and synergy and all those type of things. You're the one that was behind the X-Files as well. And so that was actually something that was really, interesting to me, is a lot of people have been using these different, techniques that you basically really pioneered back in the 70s and stuff, right? So I really encourage people to go take a look at it if they haven't seen that. But I thought that was interesting. And then when you told me, well, I was the one that went down and did, the first year of the X-Files, right?
I wrote the workup. Bernard Shercliffe was my literary agent. He's Time Warner and editor of Mad Magazine, left New York. I met him when he moved to Merlin, Oregon, and he came out of retirement and taught me how to write screenplay workups. And the first one I did was unaccepted because it had 8 people and they didn't think it was going to work. So what I did is I trimmed it down to one person. I'm Fox Muller and my forensic lab, my laboratory assistant. And they bought that. I did the first 8 episodes and it was a smashing hit. And they wanted me to move to Hollywood. And I'd already done my tour with Cocaine and Swinging. I knew what I didn't want to do. And so I turned it down. And that's when they brought Carter in. They still used me on set once in a while, when we were shooting up in Canada. But I will not move to Hollywood because I don't want to live like that. I'm a country boy and I want to do farming. If I could find a basic farm in the Okinawans, Washington or Oregon, Applegate, and then British Columbia, some places that would be safe. I would like to set up a demonstration farm while I finish my manuscripts. And that's one of the things I'm promoting now is the fact that I'm available to run one of those farms. I can make a great deal of money. One of the things I did just in 2010, I took 150 truckloads of ponderosa pine cone out of Lapine and Oregon because they were a fire hazard and sold them to the East Coast as kindling. That's $3 million in less than $10,000 a day per truck. And I did 150 of those.
Now, you're saying one of the things, we've just got a couple of minutes, or we just got to wrap up quickly, and we'll go back to where to contact you again. But when you're talking about some of these things, these were the British Columbia, like the Okanagan and the Kootenays, were more so, and I know you talked closer to Salmon Arm, were more ideal restart or eco-village or intentional community. So that was one of the things I thought that was really interesting with it, because I've spent a lot of time there too.
Did you know it's also got the third largest life form on Earth up in BC? It's an agaricus mushroom. What is that? Gaia's brain? It's one of the mycorrhizae, which is a hierarchy of life forms. And mycorrhizae is the one that generates all of that as one of the largest pharmaceutical mushrooms.
Well, we're going to wrap up here. We've only got like 30 seconds left here. So I would suggest getting a hold of you. So Rick, it's okay to call you directly here. You've got your consultation request. If you want to make donations, you have a donation. You're on YouTube. You've got your Facebook. You're on Twitter, I know. But if you want to get any of the books directly, just get a hold of you and have a nice conversation. You might even get it sent out with an autograph, right?
Well, all my books are autographed because of Amazon.
Yeah, so come directly to you. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining us, and Karen Ann Lusick McDonald. So I want to thank you, and it's great that you were here.